Well guys, it is finally here, the moment we have all been waiting for. Milwaukee has released their new 15 gauge and 16 gauge finish nailers. I trimmed a whole house with them, put them through their paces, used and abused them, and I'm really excited to tell you about what I found in this video. First off, I've just got to give respect to Milwaukee. If you look at this lineup, it is amazing how far they have come in just a short amount of time. Over here, we've got the crown stapler. This year, the 23 gauge pin nailer was released, which is absolutely amazing. Their Gen 2 18 gauge, I've been using this for a couple years now, I believe. It's absolutely fantastic. And then framing nailer over here, also amazing. It's a bit heavy, but works really well. And then here in the center, I've got two of the new 15 gauge nailers that I've been using and one of the new 16 gauge nailers. Down here in front, you see old Gen 1 15 gauge. I'll be talking about that a little bit more, but what a piece of junk that gun was. I'm gonna start off with the really good stuff and then the really bad stuff. So first off, the good stuff, how does it shoot? Shoots fantastic. You can see here, this is 2-inch 15 gauge nails. As fast as you can bump it or pull the trigger, it'll shoot and it'll set the nails every time. Now, I did a review previously on the Gen 1 15 gauge and I absolutely hated this gun. I thought maybe it would be better than the DeWalt because I went through multiple DeWalt 15 gauge nailers, but whenever I tried this, I just found that I hated the way it shot. It hits really hard and it just feels really clunky. This new gun, it's very smooth. Just feels really good, very controlled the way it drives the nail. Now, I just got done trimming an entire house, didn't get the air compressor out the whole time, so all the casing, baseboard, beams, accent walls, everything, I shot a lot of nails through it. Never did I have any problem with the gun setting nails. It has all the power it needs to set a 15 gauge nail. The only time that I had any issue with it not setting the nail was if I was in a tight spot and I had the gun rocked really far back so that the tip was further away from the surface. That's the only time, and you're gonna have that with even an air nailer, so that's absolutely not an issue. Now, I've been running the DeWalt cordless 15 gauge for years, and I sold all the guns that I have, but I do still have their framing nailer, and if you've ever used that gun, you know you have this horrendous flywheel design where it's always ramping up and winding down. You do not have any of that with this gun. It's just pull the trigger and shoot the nail and it's done. Now let me tell you the worst thing I found about the new guns. In the last review video that I did on the Gen 1 15 gauge, I complained quite a bit about the belt hook on the 15 gauge. They put it up here on the top of the gun and it's not very big, so like at most you're gonna hang it on your tool belt. Not a good belt hook at all. Well, it's not much better on the new gun. So they went from no belt hook on the side on the old gun to, with the clip up here, to on the new gun, they have it down on the side, but look where the magazine is. You have no space to hook it on anything at all. It's basically flush with the magazine. So here's the deal. I'm gonna try and be as objective as possible towards Milwaukee. And I know that the reason that they did this was because if they would have put any bigger of a belt hook on there, it would have taken up so much more space and you no longer would have been able to store it in a drawer, which is really important for me. I keep my nail guns in these 2-drawer pack outs. So if it would have protruded any further out, it absolutely would not have closed in the drawers. You can see already with this larger 3.0 high output battery, it doesn't want to close. It closes a lot better there. So I get that it was an issue and they just simply didn't have any space for it. Now I get that I may sound a little bit picky complaining about it, but this is what I'm used to. On my air nailers, I run a Senko hook like this. You can see how much space it has. And this size hook is going to allow you to hang it on scaffolding, on a ladder, off of your tool belt. It gives you a lot more versatility, but with this, this guy here, it's really annoying whenever you're trying to get work done and you just don't have anywhere to hang the gun. Now the way this is built, you can simply unscrew this and move the hook over to the other side. But like I was saying before, if you put your hook on this side, it is not going to close in a true 2-drawer pack-out drawer, because it's going to make it an extra inch or so wider. So this here is Milwaukee's framing nailer, and as you can see with this belt hook, they have a very similar situation, but look what they did on the other side. They gave you this nice fold-out hook that I think works really well. I wish that Milwaukee would have designed something similar to that on the finish nailer, and I kind of hope that somebody will come up with an aftermarket accessory that way we can actually hang this somewhere. As you can see here, it's not too big of a deal to hang it from a pocket or a tool belt where you've got a thin piece of cloth, but it becomes more of an issue on scaffolding and ladders. You can see here, if you're up on a ladder working and you need to hang the gun, it will hang, but it's not super secure, and it's a little bit scary if you've got a window out in front of you here, because if the nailer falls off, there's a chance you're gonna break the window. So not great, won't fit in this little slot. With my air nailers, I often like to hang them in there. And obviously right there, it makes a really nice connection. So with this gun, you just don't have a lot of options. And up on scaffolding, there's zero chance of you hanging it from scaffolding. All right, so back to the good stuff. One of the best improvements that they made on the new Gen 2 version is this positive placement tip. With the old version, they had this old gigantic clunky tip, which was just terrible for a multitude of reasons I'm not even going to go into. But this tip works really well. It's very similar to the way the DeWalt 15 gauge is, which I always like. It just works really well. Allows you to get into tight spaces and see exactly where you're going to put your nail. So speaking of tight spaces, how compact is this gun? Well, you will find that as you use this gun, obviously on this side here, you don't have this cylinder that is on the side of the gun, which is what allows it to shoot. So you're going to be able to get a lot closer whenever you're on this side. You do notice whenever you're trying to nail up against a wall or something, when you're on this side, the side of the gun does bump up against the wall, can dent the drywall a little bit. So that is something you have to get used to. It's a little bit different than the DeWalt 15 gauge. I found that with the DeWalt 15 gauge, the way it's designed, you can get in from both directions, but that is a downside to this new Milwaukee. It's a little bit weird whenever you're nailing up against a wall on this side. You will notice on the side here, you've got a pretty standard depth adjustment, just a knob that you can turn. And as you can see right there, it'll tell you which direction goes deeper or more proud. I found that there was plenty of depth adjustment in shooting 2.5-inch nails into 3/4-inch poplar. I didn't have any issues setting nails. I had it backed off a decent amount in order not to leave a gigantic hole. I did find that with shooting 2.5-inch 15 gauge nails, there was plenty of range in the depth adjustment, and I didn't have to max it out and go to maximum depth in order to get my nails to set. You will notice here I've got my nailer set to maximum depth. Whenever you overdrive a nail, the further that drive pin goes in, it's going to leave that wide slot mark right there. So what you want to do is have it backed off a little bit so that you don't send the drive pin in that far. So that leaves a much more reasonable sized nail hole, and that is what the painter is going to like to fill. They did give us one LED light. You'll notice that it's located at the base down here. It's not up here on the head, but whenever you pull the trigger, it'll turn on and it projects that light upward. Works pretty well. No complaints or anything like that with the light. The mechanism for loading the nails is pretty straightforward. you just simply push your nails in as you would with a lot of 15 gauge finish nailers, and then you simply pull the clip back and it catches the end of your strip of nails and feeds it down through. If you want to remove nails, it's just got a little clip right here that'll shoot up. You can get your nails out and in just fine. So one of the issues I have 2 of these new 15 gauge nailers. One of them Milwaukee sent me, the other one I purchased myself from Home Depot's website online. Got it really quick. If you want to get the new tools as fast as possible, I've found that Home Depot is your best bet. They seem to get the tools first and they ship super fast. Anywho, the first gun that I had from Home Depot I was using, and occasionally the stick of nails would get hung up and I'd end up dry firing, and I'd have to kind of push the strip of nails a little bit to get it to keep going, and then I'd kind of take off again. And this would probably happen 1 out of every 4 or 5 sticks of nails, and it is kind of annoying. So I decided to go ahead and switch to the other gun that I had that Milwaukee sent me. Used it a ton and I did not have any issues as far as nails feeding. So I hope that's not an issue with these guns. My DeWalt 15 gauge cordless nailers would do that, where they would get to the point where the magazine catch would get really weak and it wouldn't feed the nails, or it would get dirty, and that can really get annoying really fast. So I hope that's not an issue. So next, let's talk about runtime. I was mostly using the CP 3.0 batteries just because I think that it's a nice size and kind of goes well with a nailer like this. The nailers are a little bit heavy, but not too bad. But I would either run 3.0 or full 5.0s. Honestly, I don't feel much of a difference handling the gun between a 5.0 and 3.0. Doesn't really bother me that much, but running these, I was getting plenty of shots out of the 3.0s. The runtime didn't disappoint me at all. So one thing that does scare me a little bit with these guns is how long they're gonna last. I was going through a DeWalt gun about every 1.5 years or so. I've probably bought 4 or 5 DeWalt 15 gauge nailers over the course of the last several years, which is kind of ridiculous. But these Milwaukee guns use a cylinder with a piston with gas inside. And I did notice that whenever I was nailing really fast, nailing off baseboard or casing, where I'm just hitting a lot of nails really quick, the gun would get hot and it would start to smell a little bit hot. So I'm gonna say that if these guns go bad prematurely, getting them really hot is probably gonna contribute to that, being that you probably have a cylinder in here with seals and stuff that could go bad with excessive heat. So keep that in mind if you are using it and doing a lot of nailing really fast for an extended period of time. These guns aren't necessarily made for that, and they may go bad. You may lose your seal, which will basically render the gun useless, and you have to send it in for warranty or buy a new one. So that is one thing I'm personally going to watch for, and try not to overdo it with these and let them get too hot. All in all, I'm absolutely thrilled with these guns. This is the 16 gauge nailer. I don't use a lot of 16 gauge nails. I mostly use 18 and 15, but I'm sure this is going to be a fantastic nailer also. I didn't have a chance to run it very much, but we do have a 16 available also from Milwaukee, which was released right now with this new 15. Would I recommend this nailer to you? Absolutely. I think Milwaukee outdid themselves again. Biggest complaint again is the belt hook, but again, I see that they were just simply working with the physics that they had to work with. You have to put this dude somewhere and you have to have a nail magazine somewhere, and they just kind of ran out of space. So kind of hope somebody comes up with something that'll flip out on this side over here maybe, or some kind of aftermarket accessory that might work a little bit better than this hook, but it's something that I can live with. The gun shoots absolutely fantastically. I love it. I'd highly recommend it.